Chairman Bounds is in the house. One quick shot here. The Brand Z Company, which rates brands out there, have rated the top 10 most valuable global brands for 2019.
All right.
Number 10 is MasterCard. Value in that. Number 9 is McDonald's. Everybody knows McDonald's. Number 8 is Facebook. Number 7 is Tcent. I have no idea. T-E-C-E-N-T, you know?
Nope.
You ever heard of it, Chairman?
No, I have not, sir.
Alibaba. This is worldwide, so
No, that's Chinese. I know who that is.
Number 5 is Visa. Number 4 is a company known as Google. Number 3, Microsoft. Number 2 is Apple. And number 1, the guy who may be the first trillionaire, is Jeff at Amazon.
Huh?
So there you go. I don't know who's gonna rival him in the future. So it is amazing. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, Paul. Good morning, Mississippi.
You ready to go home?
I'm ready to go home. I think everybody else is too.
Well, I asked you off the air because I know the lieutenant governor said they're expecting to leave today, but you guys are too in the house.
I would anticipate us trying to get out of town today too. This is a session that keeps on giving.
It does. It ain't over yet.
It's not over yet.
It's not over yet. We were talking about that medical marijuana bill, and apparently that is dead. It's not going to happen this year.
I would think so. We had some discussion on it yesterday, and as the lieutenant governor mentioned, it's just at this point in the game to bring out just a standalone rule suspension on something that controversial is very difficult to handle at this stage of the season.
Especially after the flag fight. So that's going to be a whole new ball game.
Right.
Yesterday, and I'm trying to get my hands around here to explain to this audience, because there are different pots of money, and I'm a little bit confused, and I think they are, because I had somebody ask me a question. I said, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little confused on this one, because we have the $50 million that was put in the kitty of who gets it, who didn't get it. There's some dispute over that, or not a dispute, but it was one of the bills yesterday that there was some chatter about. So explain exactly where we are with this.
Well, so as far as broadband connectivity is concerned, excuse me, Paul. As far as broadband connectivity is concerned, there's two bills out there, two pots of money out there. The two bills are House Bill 1788, which I authored, and then Senate Bill 3046, and they do two dramatically different things. 1788 would $50 million worth of CARES Act dollars that would be given and administered to the Mississippi Department of Education to be made allowable for school districts that have been identified with students in unserved areas. In other words, where there's no broadband access, according to FCC census data. These school districts would be able to come to the Department of Education and say, I'm at Podunk High School, and we have 1,000 students, but 600 of them have no broadband access. And this would be according to either census blocks, or it could be according to data survey that the Department of Education has done with the school districts themselves. Okay, so what this would do, and I refer to this bill as a bill that is, as we thought about this process and how we're going to distribute money and get broadband connectivity to these students, there was not any way we could have a one-size-fits-all, one-glove-fits-all, cookie-cutter approach to every situation in the state. So what this money would do, it would be administered by the Department of Education to the districts. The districts would be allowed to go out and negotiate with potential broadband providers in their area to provide broadband services to these students that are unserved. Now, Let me say this.
Wait a minute. The Senate bill doesn't do that?
No. The Senate bill is a different bill. That deals with the co-ops.
Okay.
And we're going to get on that one.
All right. 1788.
1788. Right. So in my years down here, and I appreciate this because they are better able to do this. You know, I've heard from school districts and superintendents that if you give us the resources and you give us the flexibility to do something with those resources, we'll educate a kid with it. And this is what we're doing. They know better, Paul, in their districts what possible potential broadband provider is out there. And I will tell you, there has been so many great ideas that have been presented to me, from putting fixed wireless transmitters on water association towers, on Miss Wind towers across the state. I'm going to tell you, if you put the money out there, it will incentivize people to get smart and find ways to get things done.
Well, and also we have the Starlink thing that people are talking about. Sooner or later, something like that's going to happen also.
Sure, I think so. And I think here again, and obviously none of us wanted this COVID thing to come along, but what has come out of this is is a bastion of ideas that people with technology that have the technology and can do the technology can get to broadband connectivity to the rural area.
So a school like Madison or DeSoto County, they're not going to get that money because they don't need it, but places like Tunica or other places that don't have broadband, it'll be focused on them.
Well, not necessarily, because when I presented the bill on the House floor last week, the question was asked about counties, specifically Madison County. You know, where it's a rural county. It's an urban county. It's a rural county, but it's an urban county also. But a lot of the students have broadband access. But the point brought out was when you get up into northern Madison County, for example, in the Belma-Jackson area and things,
Camden and that
area, there is no broadband access. So it would be identified, those students eligible or those districts eligible or schools eligible would be identified by FCC census data blocks or either data survey and try to pinpoint down those students in those districts that don't have.
So it's not going to go by counties. It's going to go by the need itself.
It's going to go by the need itself. And I will tell you, Paul, this is a broad bill.
Is there some type of checks and balances on this? That when these people get it, somebody's going to come back. Is going to be up to the PSC or who's going to do this?
No. With this particular bill, of course, it would be administered by the Department of Education. And let me throw this out too. This money is not just for public school students in this bill. This is for the independent schools also can apply for this, and Choctaw, the Native American,
private and parochial schools.
Yes, sir. Public schools.
Well, that's even more concerned now with the Supreme Court ruling as of yesterday.
Well, my take on that is, and let me go back to where I was at. We're talking about public schools eligible for it, independent schools, and Native American schools. Okay, Native American tribal schools. They're all taxpayers too. Broadband doesn't discriminate on not being able to reach a child. You either have it on you or you don't. And if you don't, it doesn't matter.
Tell me, what was the $50 million? And is that matching funds? Or?
No, not matching funds on that. That's just $50 million.
$50 million went into that kitty, and it will be dispersed by whom? The Department of Education.
Department of Education.
And when will they start getting that money?
Well, okay, so there will be. This bill is on. The House has already passed the bill. We have passed the appropriation bill as the vehicle to appropriate the money. It's on the Senate calendar today to take up the bill. I understand that there may be a split on the money, that $25 million, maybe an amendment coming that would offer $25 million to the school districts and then $25 million to cable and telecom companies to be able to have, just them be able to provide that money. Okay? Are
you guys okay with that in the House?
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Are you?
I am, because, we're talking
about... If not, you got to come back tomorrow.
Well, that's right. But I'm okay with it. This is a process, and further too, I think that we're considering an amendment that instead of giving just the Department of Education carte blanche authority, we're going to be set up an advisory committee of the House Education Chairman, the Senate Education Chairman, the Executive Director of MDE or her designee, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Association of Independent Schools or his designee, and the Choctaw Tribal Schools.
Well, look, I'm going to have to get counting on my fingers like the Lieutenant Governor was on the flag bill, but the Department of Education has been getting some money in this thing. $170 million here, $50 million there, and I don't know whether they're doing all the money, but they've been getting some bonuses.
Let me tell you, the thing about this is it's a broad bill, broad-reaching bill, I understand. But it's something that we got to have rapid deployment on before school starts.
All right, I want to talk more about that and also about Senate Bill 3049, which is the other part of this, with the chairman. House Public Utilities also, Scott, is on appropriations, and according to the governor, the numbers don't look that bad.
Commissioner Frierson came in my office late yesterday afternoon with that good news, and he and I just almost hugged each other.
Oh, man, if he had some confiscated moonshine, somebody might have taken a little bit of that.
That's right.
Only kidding, Commish. Okay, back with Chairman of Public Utilities in the House of Representatives, who apparently will be going on recess all the way through October. at the end of today, and we are in the Trustmark studios, trustmark.com/business. All right, let's talk about the SB 3049. That's a separate bill, and you think that's going to go? And everybody's going to sign off on that one.
Yes, it's actually Senate Bill 3046, Paul.
3046,
You're
okay.
right. But anyway, yes, the House has passed the bill, and the Senate has passed the bill itself, okay? Mm-hmm. There's still the appropriation mechanism that the House has passed for the money to be distributed. The Senate will act on that today, and we should pass that. And this is the big boy. Let's call this one the big boy, okay? So what this bill does, this amounts to, and I'm going to break it down, but I'm going to give you the top figure first. It amounts to $150 million worth of broadband deployment in the state of Mississippi. Now, the way that works is in this bill, the co-ops came forward, the electric co-ops, and said we will put in, this is a match program, we will put in $65 million. And if y'all will put in $65 million of the CARES Act money, that's $130 million right there. And then we put in $10 million for other broadband providers, which would be your cable, your telecoms, telcos, people like that. And that is a match also. So that's $150 million that will be available. That will be start deploying.
That's $150 million with match.
That's $150 million with the matches included. Right?
With the matches included.
Right, yeah. So what we're doing, 65 that the co-ops are putting in, $10 million your cable telcos would put in. With the match, that's $75 million that we put in with the CARES. That's $150 million total. So let me tell you all right. So let's start with the co-op side first, okay? Mm-hmm. They have co-ops that have already submitted plans or have plans ready to submission, and they are standing ready to deploy broadband accessibility across the state in some of the co-op districts.
Do we have some co-ops who are already up and running?
It is my understanding that there's maybe two that are already.
Where do they fit in this?
They would be eligible for it.
They still are eligible to expand.
All of your co-ops. And let me say this first, too, Paul, because this money has got to be spent by December 30th, okay? Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen, whether it's the co-ops or cables or whatever, they're going to spend – we're going to award – they've got to submit applications to the public utility staff, okay? And those applications will be graded on criteria of, number of households served, number of miles that, fiber will be deployed. This thing, too, has minimum speeds in it, 100 megs up, 100 megs down. And let me tell you why we put that in there, Paul. The FCC minimum is 25.3, but I heard a good analogy used that why build a 2-lane highway when you know in 3 years you're going to need 6 lanes, okay? Yeah. So 100 megs is very rapid. That is faster than probably well over the majority of speed that people have in Mississippi, But these co-ops would apply for the money, for the grant money. They're going to put their money in anyway. They would apply for the grant money through a process with the public utility staff making the determination and the criteria on the applications. Each co-op is limited to $6 million that they can apply for, okay? And with their $6 million, that would be a $12 million deployment in their individual districts. Now, the bill goes on, and I'm not trying to convolute it, but, you have a primary round of applications. If all the money's not used up, you'll have a secondary round that can be applied for. But we are talking about all of this happening because we got to spend the money by December 1st. Mm-hmm. We're talking about July the 7th. These co-ops, that's 6 days from the day, have got to have – they're going to be requesting this census block information on unserved and underserved areas, okay? And they've got to have applications due July the 17th to the public utility staff. So this is rapid.
Well, you just got to do contracts by the end of the year, the end of the calendar year. They don't have to actually have the construction started?
You got to have – the money's got to be – they've got to show, and they will have to show through this process and to be able to find that they got to give starting in September. They've got to give monthly reports to the public utility staff on how the money is being deployed.
Scott Bounds, the chairman of House Public Utilities, have you ever seen or heard the amount of money it costs per mile?
Paul, I have not.
And has that changed?
I have not. I will tell you the figure that's always thrown out to me is if we did immediate deployment to get broadband to everybody in Mississippi today, it would be in excess of $2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion. So with this one, and then 1788, which is $200 million, we're only talking about a tenth of the money needed to. So. And I will tell you this, Paul, there's going to be RDOF funds coming down in October. That's Rural Digital Opportunity Funds. I think Mississippi's going to be, from what I understand, and a lot of the co-ops and the telcos have more information on this than I do, but Mississippi may be the recipient of $960 million worth of that these other people can apply for, that they can apply for. So
it's good to have friends in high places.
Well, it
up
is
there,
good.
As far as the chairman of Commerce and Cindy Hyde-Smith also.
Right.
So that's good news as far as Senate.
So, I will say that, again, nobody wanted COVID to happen, but it has brought about, unfortunately, and fortunately, it's brought about opportunities for us to do things here in the state of Mississippi with the help of federal dollars, with the assistance of federal dollars that will benefit all Mississippians.
Are we putting these things, hanging these things on telephone lines, some of the telephone lines, utility lines?
Yeah, they're being hung. Yes, they are being hung on poles. A lot of it's being buried.
Some of it's microwavable.
Yeah. And most of this, Senate Bill 3046 will be fiber, and I will tell you, the co-ops have made a commitment, and they've told me that instead of starting in the urban areas that they may have to pass through, their intent is to start with the guy at the end of the line and work
and come back this way.
And come back.
How about that?
Yeah.
So that is unusual.
So
now, are they also doing TV cable, or is it just internet?
Just broadband.
Broadband.
Yeah. In fact, I think if you probably got down and really asked co-ops, they didn't want to be in the broadband business. But with the Enabling Act that we did last year, it allows them to go into the broadband business. And I will tell you, we are fortunate in Mississippi to have had the telecoms, the AT&Ts, the Verizons, and all of those people through the years that have been diligent in trying to get as much broadband out. It's an expensive process, Paul.
I know, working with C Spire, and they have been diligent on this.
Right.
And worked hard on this thing, and it's not cheap.
Right, it's not.
It's not.
And I will tell you this, Paul, both of these bills, Senate Bill 3046 and House Bill 1788, there are dates in them that if there are any unobligated monies, and I think it's on December 1st, both of them, that will flow back into the unemployment compensation fund. And that will be if there's any unused dollars. Yeah. And as we all know who are business people, that experience rating on your unemployment thing is big. So we need to put as much money as we want to get broadband, but there's unobligated monies. We want to be able to help small businesses.
Final thoughts here before I let you go, and I know you got a gavel in coming up in a short period of time here. But any of your bills that clear that you want to mention?
Well, yeah, of course, 1788, which is one. That's mine. We hope the Senate will get that one worked out today. Hopefully this morning, be through with it. I had some other bills that have gone through the process, sort of flew under the radar. One that was very important to me in law enforcement that really sort of flew under the radar was House Bill 1434, I think. And what it did, it allowed police chiefs and sheriffs the ability to raise their compensation threshold for part-time officers so they wouldn't be considered full-time. That allows them the flexibility to hire part-time people and pay them more. It's not raises, but keep them part-time and not have to recruit full-time. Yeah. And that is very big for law enforcement.
I'll ask you this. Are you glad the flag issue is over?
I'm glad the flag issue is over. It went through the process, the legislative process, and I know that there a lot of people I know in my district, it was clear, overwhelming, and the people wanted a chance to vote on it, but that is not what the legislature did. And we've got, let's see, today, we got 14 days, and then I guess it will be retired.
I think the lieutenant governor said that he was appointing his 3 people today or tomorrow. So
Right.
Now, Plan B. Do you have Plan B as far as what you're going to be doing where you normally would be at the Neshoba County Fair? What's Plan B?
I don't know. I'll take a little time off in the coming week. Well, not take any time off. You're always on duty in this job. But sort of step back a little bit, relax a little bit. But unfortunately, the fair will not be going on, but it'll just make it twice as good in 2021.
People be walking around just like they're supposed to be somewhere during that time. Always good seeing you, sir.
Thank you for having me on,
You got it. Scott Bounds, Mississippi House of Representatives, Chairman, House Public Utilities Committee. I got a couple of sound soundbites I want you to hear. We'll do that and more coming up next.